Tradingsim, the #1 market replay platform in the world, where you can learn to trade like a pro at your own pace.
VWAP Boulevard has become all the rage in the FinTwit community lately. Discovered, named, and taken mainstream by Twitter phenom @Team3D Stocks, thousands of day traders are now implementing this strategy to trade momentum stocks. In this webinar, we'll uncover the long and short of the strategy, plus show you how to practice with our new VWAP Boulevard indicator and scans with real-life trading examples inside Tradingsim. With any good strategy, an edge in the market starts with backtesting. You can either pay for the data and analyze it, or you can spend years collecting your own data as you trade day by day. At Team 3D Stocks, who goes by All Day Faders, is the man who discovered the VWAP Boulevard strategy through years of collecting his own data sets. When asked how he finally stumbled upon the strategy, he says, "Each time a low float ticker had the audacity to hit the scanners, I would add it to my database, then pick it apart after hours. Like a mad scientist," he goes on to say. Excel spreadsheets galore, he'd break everything down that he possibly could, analyze everything about the tickers he saw on the screen, the chart, the price action, the SEC filings, the fundamentals, the volume, and more. Over time, all-day faders found that the low floaters hitting his scanners in the morning all had something in common. Similar in concept to volume at price or anchored VWAP or even pivot points, but slightly different. These low float stocks were running into an area of prior volume-weighted price resistance from previous high-volume days, then reversing and fading all day. If he tracked backwards on the daily chart until he ran across a prior high-volume run, he could use that day's intraday VWAP as a guide for the current day's trading levels. According to all-day faders, the probability is around 75 to 80% accuracy that the stock will run into serious resistance at these levels. And the reaction to the levels will dictate the action he needs to take, going long or short. Along those lines, he has found that 70 to 80% of the best faders die in the pre-market. Outside of the pre-market hours, all-day faders admits that the second best time to short extended stocks is by 10 a.m., but only if the volume is climactic. Those are some pretty decent odds for trading, and anyone who trades low float stocks knows how difficult they can be to trade. Once you get the hang of identifying VWAP Boulevard, the strategy is fairly simple, granted you understand price and volume action on a chart. Basically, if the stock approaches VWAP Boulevard and fails, short the stock on a trend break. If the stock breaks through VWAP Boulevard and holds those levels after breaking out, it can be a great opportunity to go long. We explain this in more detail in our blog tutorial. We provide a link at the end, so be sure to read that. Here's an example of a long opportunity, just so you can visualize how it works. Notice how each VWAP Boulevard line on the chart held as support and the stock continued higher. In contrast, here's an example of a 10 a.m. shorting opportunity. Notice the climactic volume at the VWAP Boulevard level, followed by a kill candle and drastic volume reduction on the backside. The criteria for finding good VWAP Boulevard candidates is pretty simple. In fact, all-day faders finds at least 2 to 3 great candidates each week, even more in great markets. Essentially, you can scan for low float stocks, 50 million in the float or lower usually, that have a pre-market gap of at least 50% or more. Lastly, you want extreme volume. Ideally, the stock will have rotated its entire float by the time the market opens. For more information on float rotation, be sure to check out our blog. So how do you find VWAP Boulevard on your charts? It's actually quite simple. Note that All Day Faders uses and recommends Thinkorswim for his calculation, so we've given an example of that to the right. Nonetheless, it can be found on just about any charting platform. Pull up a daily chart using your trading platform, overlay the VWAP indicator, look for recent big volume days, identify their VWAPs, draw a line at that level, and impose the line on your intraday chart for support or resistance. That's it. Draw your line there, then wait for the current pre-market or intraday action to reach and react to that level. Here's an example of how to find VWAP Boulevard using our Tradingsim charts. Notice the highlighted days with big volume. These were the 3 highest volume days prior to the current day for this particular symbol, SPI. All you have to do is identify the VWAP for these days and draw lines. If you think this is too much work, we've made it even easier for you. That's right, in order to practice this strategy, our team has coded a special VWAP Boulevard drawing tool that allows you to identify the top 5 high volume days on a daily chart. Let's check out what that would look like with this SPI example. Here we have selected our VWAP Boulevard drawing tool on the daily chart below, down in the bottom left. It's the 3 straight lines stacked on top of each other. We select the range from left to right on the daily chart with our mouse, and voila, the top 5 highest volume VWAP Boulevard lines are drawn automatically. And better yet, they are superimposed on the intraday 1-minute chart above, color-coded from dark to light, and numbered 1 to 5, showing highest volume to lowest volume bars. This way, you know the level of importance of each bar as the stock approaches these levels intraday. This sets the tone for the strategy, and the rest is up to you. Now that we've covered the basics, let's jump into a recording in the simulator where we'll show you how to put this helpful tool into practice.
Hello fellow traders, John with Tradingsim here. So we're going to dive in now and explore how you can use the new VWAP Boulevard drawing tool to help practice this strategy. In order to do that, let's create a filter using our scanners. The first thing that we're going to do is create a new filter, go up to the float because we know that the float needs to be low for this strategy to really work. So we say 50 million in the float, and then we're going to order our results by percent gain. And let's just give it a name. How about VWAP Boulevard? There we go. So now that we have our VWAP Boulevard scanner set, we have filtered our results in the scanner to securities that are trading with less than 50 million in their float. Now the second criteria we want to look for is obviously a high percentage gainer. So above 50% ideally. The only one that really meets our criteria for that on this morning, which was yesterday, ENTX. And if we pull this stock up, we see it has made a really big move in the pre-market. And we also see that there are some high volume days prior to this day. So what we're going to do is we're going to set our VWAP Boulevard indicator. What we do is we click on the 3 lines I just clicked on, set our range from the left of the high volume days, click once, and then go to the right and click a second time. And what this does is on the daily chart, it sets the automatic top 5 high volume VWAP Boulevard lines for this security. And the great thing about it is it superimposes those lines onto the intraday 1-minute chart, or whichever chart you want to use. Maybe you like the 5-minute chart, you can use that, and it will be on that as well. And again, if you're new to Tradingsim, you're welcome to add more charts to your list. But for today's purposes, we're only going to use the daily and the intraday 1-minute candles. All right, so now that you've done that, you've got the opportunity to trade this. All you have to do is set your frames per second. If you want it normal speed, you can do normal speed, 2x, 3x, 5x, or even faster. So I've got this set at 60x speed just to kind of see what happens so that we're not wasting too much time. But it gives you a good opportunity to see how the stock reacts to these key levels. Notice also that as this stock breaks through this level, that is marked with a number 2. It's also a slightly darker line than the number 3 line. And then down below that is number 1. that's telling you that number 1 is the highest volume VWAP Boulevard day, and then the others either get consistently lighter as you go to lower volume. So they're inversely proportionate. But it's just to give you an idea of the importance of each particular VWAP Boulevard line, up to 5 lines. Now, because this is a drawing tool, you could click the VWAP Boulevard tool and draw those lines again, and we'll show you in a moment why that might be helpful. But here we notice that the stock is interacting with VWAP Boulevard number 2 on our chart. As I speed things up just a little bit, fast forwarding ahead into time, and we notice that eventually it breaks down from this level around 12 o'clock. So definitely took some time, not a very clean VWAP Boulevard trade, and you can see that it was an important level. It was a key level. And let's take a look at another example. Let's go back to our calendar here, and let's go maybe last year. How about September 23rd? Let's see what comes up. All right, so we've got two big runners here. Let's go with SPI. We notice SPI has, if we zoom out on the daily, SPI has a number of high volume days prior to this morning gap here that we see, gapping 277% in the pre-market, which is really insane. So we click our VWAP Boulevard indicator tool, we draw those lines out, and then we click a second time and it sets those lines for us. And here we have our key levels. So notice that we once again have been interacting with one of those key levels right here, and we're interacting with it again just before the open. So the question will be then, does this level fail for us, or do we actually go up and test the next level, and then what happens at that level? Let's see what happens if we fast forward just a little bit. So we had what looked like a potential failure here, but then we reclaimed this number 1 VWAP Boulevard around the $3.70 level, and now we're pushing higher to the second level. Keep in mind, you want to see volume trail off considerably by about 10 o'clock, but this stock seems to be pretty strong this morning. So ideally, if you were not covering your shorts way back down here at 377, then you're in for some pain on this day. Hopefully, though, you foresaw that, knowing that the VWAP Boulevard levels were so important, and you could take it long and risk off of those levels. Another great example. Now, let's see if we can find one that that presents us with a nice all-day fade. Let's move forward a little bit. We'll pick February, let's say February 19th. And looking at our scanner, again, we're scanning for stocks less than 50 mil in the float and higher than 50%. Looks like we've got quite a few on this day. We've got Watt, we've got JMP, and VCNX. Let's just take VCNX since it's the highest gainer for the day. Sure enough, it's up 109% before the market opens, and we have quite a handful of high volume days. Now, notice that some of these high volume days occur below the current price action. You can kind of see that over here. So we're trading right now at close to $6, which is going to be up in this area right here. So what we want to do is we want to identify the high volume days that will be most important to the trading above where we are. To do that, we go and we click our VWAP Boulevard indicator. We click to the left and then come back over to the right. And as you can see, the further right you move, the more it's going to include those high volume days below us. So if we move back to the left, now we have a key level right there at 846. Looks like there's another key level that we were interacting with here at $5.34. So the question then becomes, what happens? What happens on these levels up here around 834? The other thing you might do is draw another VWAP Boulevard just for any extra high volume days, just to include this one day back over here where we saw a little bit of high volume. That gives us a line right around $9. Now, you don't want too many lines on your chart, but if you want to make sure you've got all your bases covered, that might be an option for you. And as we speed forward, let's check out what happens around 10 a.m. since we know that that's usually the time that stocks will die if the volume is climactic. Sure enough, it interacts with our key levels around 8:30. Notice that it even hit that almost to the penny. Here and here. It pops a little bit higher to the VWAP Boulevard from the lower volume gap and then fails right back through it. Let's see if this was an all-day fader. Looks like an all-day fader to me. Again, another wonderful tool to use to find long-term support resistance lines for these low float small cap stocks. Let's pick one more example and then you can do the practice for yourself. How about we move forward? Let's pick a random day in March. Yep, we've got a plus 59% right there. Low float, high volume. Let's click on EYES. Nice looking pre-market chart. Doesn't really look like it's breaking down yet though. So let's draw our lines. VWAP Boulevard, here we go. Superimpose them, and there we have $2.05 acting as support, but we've also got $2.57 acting as resistance. So we have interacted with that level once before in the pre-market. The question will then become, off the open, as we fast forward to 10 a.m., what happens? 10 a.m. we're interacting with that VWAP Boulevard line, which is the second highest volume on our daily chart. We move forward, and now we have broken through it. The question then becomes, what happens at these key levels? Now, just like the other chart, we might ought to look at what happened on the VWAP with this gap day right here. This was a large bar, so it might be significant. Let's see if we can find a VWAP Boulevard for that. And there we go, $3.31. So there still might be some resistance overhead at the $3.31 level, but we know that we're through the main volume level of $2.57. What happens? Looks like support. Now we're interacting with the last level of resistance, and we're already through that. So as you can see, if you're short biased, these can be a great way to safeguard and keep yourself out of trouble on the short side. If you're a long bias trader, they can be a great way to analyze strength and build into a position into the trend. And sure enough, eyes was a big winner that day. So, with that being said, we hope you'll take the time to practice with this new indicator, this new strategy. We want to give thanks to All Day Faders at Team 3D Stocks on Twitter for sharing this wisdom with the FinTwit world, and we hope that it will be a beneficial strategy for anybody looking to trade momentum stocks in the highly volatile world of low floats.
For more information on VWAP Boulevard, visit us at tradingsim.com. And thanks for watching.